So if you think about a team sport, you have different roles in a team. So the sooner that you can find people that fill those roles that you may not be the best at, I think the better, chances you have of getting the deal done.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you're enjoying this show, you know what to do. I want to hear from you, man. Leave us that rating and review. I want to hear what you love about the show, but also any feedback to make it work harder for your investing goals. If this is your first time listening, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We've got a fun show today. We're going to be talking to Eddie Symmonett. The real estate landscape is changing, and you need to be prepared to take advantage of the emerging opportunities. That's why you should join me and other top real estate investors for the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit, May 6th and 7th in Chicago. Now, you want to build the connections and partnerships that will help you scale your portfolio. Guest speakers include Jay Papasan, author of the #1 best-selling book, The One Thing; Ray Higdon, network marketing expert and author of Freakishly Effective Leadership for Network Marketers; and Tarl Yarber, Bigger Pockets contributor and the CEO of Fixated Real Estate. Now, join us for the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit on May 6th and 7th in Chicago. Tickets are available right now at MidwestRESummit.com. Use promo code PODCAST to save on your ticket today. Again, go to MidwestRESummit.com and use promo code PODCAST to save on your ticket. Now, Eddie Symmonett is the founder of Symmonett Multifamily. Now, they have invested in over 130 units across 5 properties in the Birmingham, Alabama market, and they are vertically integrated, managing their own properties. With that said, let's welcome to the show, Eddie Symmonett.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Eddie, it's great to get you on the show. I know I've come across some of your stuff on LinkedIn in particular, so it's great to meet you in person, actually have this conversation here. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps in your bio?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, for everyone listening, so my name is Eddie Symmonett. I'm 29 years old. I'm originally from the Bahamas. I moved to the States when I was 18. Went to college here. I was a student athlete, played tennis, and studied business administration. Got my start in real estate my junior year of college. So I interned with a real estate investment company. And by the time I graduated, I had a decision to make. Go the safe route and work a 9 to 5 with my accounting degree, or to take the real estate avenue. I opted for real estate. I'm happy I did it. Best decision I made. Started out wholesaling deals. Really, eventually saw that I was trading time for money, and I wanted to get more passive income. That led me to buying my first multifamily property in 2017, and since then we've acquired 130 units, all in the Birmingham, Alabama area, and I've also started a property management company as well.
I love it, man. Listen, you talked about coming here from Bahamas when you were 18 years old, coming to college, student athlete, going through your schooling and then making the decision, go into accounting, go into real estate. You pick real estate and ultimately end up building this portfolio where you're at today. Let's first talk about, what is it about kind of your upbringing and your experiences in the past that push you into real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually my background, right? So my family, on my mom's side of the family, funny enough, they actually owned some smaller multifamily properties. And me and my cousin growing up, we would actually help paint the units and help turn over units as kids. At the time as kids, you'd rather be outside doing cartwheels, but I didn't really appreciate it at the time. But in retrospect, as I started learning about more investments, I realized that my family was doing something really good. They were investing and actually buying and owning cash flow producing assets. So for me, that was even more encouragement to go ahead and do it. And it really helped because I had someone I could look at and be like, okay, well, my family has done this before. I can do it, right? It gave me that affirmation that I can do it. So that's kind of like how I got started. And the opportunity came up in college to go to investment 3-day event. And at that event, it was a lot to take in 3 days. Is one of those events where they try to teach you wholesaling, fix flipping, and buy and hold in one event. So it was a lot. It was like drink from fire hose. But one thing I did learn about was networking. Networking is very important. That's how I found my first mentor, was actually from networking in that event. And that led to me wholesaling at first and then eventually getting into multifamily.
Hey, man, I love the fact that you recognize the experiences you had, or at least that you were privy of, right? So you talked about your family investing, and that kind of gave you a level of comfort with real estate investing. So by the time you kind of got some exposure to it and started to attend events and getting interested, you were able to take that and build on it without maybe some of the baggage that other people may have. I think this is really important for us to understand that, no matter what your background is, you probably know someone who was investing in real estate or was making money in real estate, and you can kind of tap into that knowledge or that experience, and hopefully that gives you a little
Mhm,
bit of a leg up, or at least some positive momentum to go ahead and get started. So you've built
mhm.
this company, right? You mentioned you started off wholesaling. Eventually you transitioned into multifamily. Why multifamily? Why did you get into multifamily, and what were you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. So, full transparency, my first wholesale deal, right? So when they teach you wholesaling, they teach you have to have a buyer's list first. You have to have the cash buyer, and then you have to go out and find the property. So for me getting started, I didn't really know that. I found the property first. I got it at too high of a price, and which led me to not making much of my a wholesale fee on my first deal. I actually only made $500, right? And from that experience, I said, okay, well, this is no different from me working a 9 to 5. I'd probably be better off with a 9 to 5. Now, a lot of people do really get at wholesaling. That was just my first deal. But basically, when I bought my first apartment, which was a duplex, I actually still live in here today. I live on one side, rent on the other side, I house hack it. When I first bought this property at closing, I got a check for $900. That was the first month's rent, security deposit, right? That was a light bulb moment to me because I didn't do as much work as I did when I was wholesaling. I was putting up signs and I was cleaning out this nasty apartment and trying to get this thing sold, versus me signing my name on a piece of paper and getting a check, receiving money, receiving about $900. So it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but for me, it was more like a lifestyle type thing. I saw that and I said, listen, how do I do more of this? Because that was just too easy. That was too easy. I want to try to figure out how to get more scale. So that first deal really led to me like starting to gradually get larger properties.
And how old were you when you did that first house hack deal?
First, 23 years old. So I'm 29
Oh
now.
yeah,
First
yeah.
deal was 23. Yeah.
So to your point, I mean, it may not be a lot of money, but again, picture someone out of school, first deal, you're
Mhm.
getting a check for a property
Yeah.
you've got equity in, over the long haul, it's going to appreciate, you know,
Yeah.
and that was very similar to what we did, man. We bought our first 2-unit property. We got a check at closing, which I thought was amazing. We
Yeah.
reinvested into the property, and when I realized how much equity we had created, my only question was the same thing you said. How do I do more of this? And that's what kind of got the snowball rolling for us as well. Now, Eddie, for you, you've started to scale this thing out, and now you have over 130 units. You think you just
Yeah.
closed on a 48-unit building not too long ago. Talk to us about scaling this portfolio, because I think that's a challenge that a lot of people face. You've got one property,
Yeah.
maybe the one or two deals. How do you get over that hump to actually scale and to start to see some real momentum?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for me and my background, I didn't come with a excess of cash into real estate. I didn't come from a corporate, where I had a lot of savings. So for me, I had a finite amount of money starting out. So I had to figure out, okay, once those initial investment funds had ran out, and I bought these two properties, which was a duplex and a 4 unit. At that point, I had to figure out how to add value because I didn't have the money in the bank. So, okay, how can I help someone? How can I add value? So that led to me bringing in investors, right? So that's basically, that transition to getting into larger multifamily. You go from being able to do the deals yourself to learning that it is a team sport, and you do need to bring people in. So those people that I brought in was actually my mom and my aunt in my first deal. So that's how it came kind of full cycle to how I grew up. So they already knew about real estate, knew the benefits of it. Our family had been doing it, and they actually partnered up with me. Those were my first partners, and we bought a 36-unit apartment complex that we're actually under contract to sell right now. So this is my first whole, like literally, we just signed the contract on Monday. My first full cycle deal is going to be closed hopefully in April. But yeah,
How much
that's
did
how
you
it
raise
started
from
out.
your mom and your aunt?
So total, I think I put in maybe 20K. In total, it was about 220K total to 140 to purchase, and then we also had some capex and everything like that. And then we this was actually a reposition project, so I didn't go in with more like a simple value add. This was like one of those deals where I had a lot of learning experiences on. I had to gut and renovate over 20 units. It's just the list goes on. We may have to hop on another call and really go deep into that project because
Yeah.
I have stories. I have stories on that one, man. But I'm happy I did it. That deal took me from a non-accredited investor to accredited investor. For those listening, a net worth less than $1 million to net worth over $1 million. That deal set me up to where I could be a guarantor on my first two syndicated deals, where the loan amounts were 1.2 million and 2. I'm sorry, 1.2 million and 1.7 million, respectively. So that deal really set me up to where I can do more nicer and more profitable deals, I would say.
No, I think that's great to hear, man. And I'm curious, right? Because
Yeah,
when you talk about getting your mom or your aunt as your first investors, we always tell people, people need to know, like, and trust you in order for them to want to do business with you. Well, obviously, your mom and your aunt are going to know, like, and trust you.
yeah,
Nonetheless, that doesn't mean they're going to be ready to write $100,000 check each, maybe to partner with you. So, talk to us about kind of that experience. Talking to them, presenting the deal to them. What
yeah,
concerns did they have? How much confidence did they have, in you? Especially since this business plan was one that, quite frankly, you hadn't done before. You hadn't executed a
yeah.
deal this large with the renovation that this property took. So, talk to us about your business plan, the presentation, and what you think got them comfortable investing in you.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, and actually probably how I had the opportunity to get on this podcast is I always document and share what I'm doing. I'm always sharing. So it's not just social media; it's everyone I'm talking to. That includes family, friends, colleagues. I always share not just the good, the bad. I share all of the challenges that come in with the real estate business. I think for me, doing that over time, it gained confidence in my mom and my aunt of me, to go ahead and invest. Because before that first 36 unit deal, remember I had done wholesaling. I was telling everyone about that. I bought my first property that I lived in right on the other side. I was telling everyone about that. Then I bought a fourplex property, telling everyone about that. So by me doing that, I think that kind of gave people the confidence. It wasn't as much of a hard sell because they had been following me for a couple, like, about a year and a half. They had been seeing what I was doing, so it was an easier conversation to have. So that's really how it was. And then as far as the presentation of it, it was just a simple, come into, to the kitchen table and just talking about it, when I was back home in the Bahamas for Christmas. So that's literally how it happened. We had the conversation Christmas time, and we closed the deal in March of that year, the next year.
I love it, man. So, with them investing, I mean, what were the challenges that they were hoping you could help them overcome? I mean, was it simply a matter of, oh, this is Eddie, let's support him? Or, were there certain things they were hoping to get out of this investment?
Yeah, well, I think my the charming part of it, like with me being, there, looking up to me, looking at me growing and doing this thing. So I did have, the benefit of them being family members. But then also my aunt was nearing retirement at the time. She wasn't really making much on her money in the bank. I think at the time it was like less than 1%. And she wanted a way to try to get a little bit more growth of her capital, and she saw, the opportunity to help her nephew out, starting the business as well. So, I think anyone, we all work hard for our money. So, like, I definitely think, me sharing my process as well as my business plan for the deal help get some confidence, get the confidence going. And as far as my mom, I think a lot of it is she knows whatever I put my mind to, I'll do. So, I mean, even me getting to the States from the Bahamas on a tennis scholarship to get to college, full time, and me completing my college tenure, graduating second highest in my class in accounting, as well as being a student athlete. So I think, just knowing who I am as a person, like John, you talked about it. People invest people they know, like, and trust. So I think, my integrity, who I am as a person, at its core before the real estate stuff, really helped me when I was having conversations with my family. Then it also helped me, when I started bringing in outside investors, people that have known me a long time or have, learned about me through networking. So, uh,
Eddie, I love your story, man, because again, it's easy for someone to maybe discredit that first deal and say, oh, his mom and his aunt gave him the money. That's why, of course, he
mhm,
could do it. But you just
mhm,
laid out the key things that I don't want people to overlook. First of all, you built up your credibility. They saw the kind of
mhm,
person you were, they saw the kind of work ethic you had. from being good enough at tennis to get a scholarship, which we know is not easy, especially coming from the Bahamas to get to the United States to do that. Being able to graduate, being able to be a student athlete, being able to recognize how to create success in your life, but having a clear vision, being a go-getter. I'm sure these are the things that your mom and your aunt saw in you as a little kid. So this is more indicative of who you are at your core. And because they know you, it's easier for them to make that decision to invest in you. Then once you have a chance to go out there and put some wins on the table, now you can share that with other people. And I want to go back to the other thing you said, which was you didn't really start with asking them. You kind of built in public and you were sharing what you were doing for a long time, over a year, before presenting
Mhm.
them an opportunity. I think too many people come into this and they assume that, oh, I'm going to get a deal and I'm going to start telling people about it and they're just going to, flock to me with money. No, they have to get a chance to get to know you, like you, and trust you in that realm. So even though your mom and your aunt love you, I'm sure they love you and adore you, and they love how hard you worked in accounting and how hard you worked in tennis. But if they didn't start to see you as a real estate investor with the wholesale deals you were doing, with the duplex, with the 4 unit, they would not have been as comfortable investing with you. And then the last point, you solved the real problem. You're almost making a 1% return on their money, and you present an opportunity to make probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times more than what she was getting there. So that made it easier for them to go ahead and pull the trigger and invest with someone like you.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Thank you.
And I would just say too, like again, there are people in your lives who have seen you grow. So if you're thinking to yourself, I don't have that person in my family that can invest in my first deal. Well, think about the people you do know, the people who you are connected to, who have seen you grow, who understand the successes you've had. And if you haven't had these successes, you got to start there, right? If people
Yeah.
aren't confident in you, you need to start with that and address it. Are you finishing things that you start? Are you, putting the best version of yourself forward? You've got to make sure you're taking care of that because people are going to invest in people that they believe in. And I think what Eddie has done, he's demonstrated that ability. And that's why he's able to grow and scale the way he has done. We talked about the family investment. You now work with other investors. I know you've got a bigger audience of LP passive investors across these 130 units. Talk to me about scaling. Once you kind of move away from friends and family money, bringing on
Yeah.
kind of other LPs, what does that process look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, even after I bought the first couple of deals, the duplex, the 4 unit, like I said earlier, like networking is just paramount. I just wanted to bring it up again because that's kind of been the secret sauce for me. Getting out of my comfort zone. I live in Birmingham, Alabama. It is fairly like the largest city in the state of Alabama, which isn't really saying much when you talk about everywhere else you could
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
So for me, I kind of realized that listen, if I want to get with the people that are making the biggest moves in my industry, I have to get out of my comfort zone again. I have to travel. I have to go to events. I actually met John for the first time last year at an event in Chicago. So, just getting out and getting where the people are, where the investors are, getting in the right rooms, I think is very important. So I did that with my 2017. I was doing that all the way up to my first syndication in 2021. That's the first time I went outside of family and friends. It was 2021. But from 2017 to then, I was talking, I was sharing my journey, I was sharing the highs and lows, I was asking for advice, I was educating myself, and people, start to take wind of that, like, you start to become a familiar name when you share what you're doing. So that's I think that's the initial stage of it. It was the networking part of it, building a database, keeping everyone's contact information, and just keeping in touch with them over the years. So by the time I was ready to get my first syndication, I already had a list of people that I thought would be good to reach out to.
I love it, Eddie. You talked about really taking the time to network, getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of Birmingham, traveling,
Mhm,
connecting with other people, and then starting to build kind of a network and a database of individuals. So by the time you had a deal that you thought would be a fit, you had a group of people who already knew you, who kind of got a chance to get to know you and maybe saw some of your content and may have an interest
mhm,
in investing with you. Let's rewind it for someone who is kind of where Eddie was after buying that 4 unit. You've got maybe 2 deals under your belt. You're drinking the Kool-Aid, you're sold, real estate is the thing I want to scale and grow. how do I do it? What advice would you give to someone in that position today?
Someone that's just looking to scale, someone that's just looking to scale
Yeah,
and get
just only
started.
only has done a couple of deals and trying to figure out how they can scale this into a business.
Yeah, I would say definitely start trying to reach out to, so understanding first and foremost that multifamily is a team sport. It's seldom that you have one person that's just running a whole deal completely. So if you think about a team sport, you have different roles in a team. So the sooner that you can find people that fill those roles that you may not be the best at, I think the better, chances you have of getting the deal done. So if you're that person that's really good at going out and finding deals, but you may not have the social media presence, maybe it may be a good idea to try to find someone, a strategic partner where y'all could partner up and like work on trying to get a deal together because there's a lot of moving pieces in a syndication. You do have to have that networking component. You do have to source the deal. You do have to operate the deal. So if you could find someone that kind of complements what you feel as though isn't a strength, I think that would give you a stronger team to go out and compete and try to get the deals, right? So, as you're maybe doing the first couple deals yourself, and as you're realizing that you now want to scale up, don't just look for the larger properties, look for the people that you could start working with, that you could partner up with, that can give you the best chances of operating those deals the best way for you and your investors. That would be my advice.
Eddie, as you were kind of scaling and getting into the syndication side of the business, who is the person or what is that role that was the most pivotal to feel outside of yourself for you to see that success?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was, I would say, raising capital and investor relations. So, my role is primarily, boots on the ground, in it day to day. This is my full time. This is what I do full time. Operations. I own a property management company. So I'm kind of, just in operations a lot. I do share a lot on social media, but I definitely think my strengths are more on acquisitions and operating. So for me, it was, oh yeah, and then also I'll talk about, in your 20s and stuff like that, people like usually invest people that they know, like, and trust, and people that are already in their ecosystem. So for me, a lot of the folks that I know, are my friends and everything, and they're just getting started in their professions, right? So they don't have the minimum needed for these investments. They will in a couple of years, but we need investors now. So that's the more of a longer term play. But now it really helps having someone that may be a little bit more established in their corporate careers that already have like those people in their ecosystem that they can reach out to and talk about the investment with. So that was pivotal for me, having partners that can help raise capital, also that have went full cycle on a couple deals. So one of my partners, she's went full cycle on a couple deals before we started working together. So it really helped having someone that's been there and done that on the team, that can help us operate in the best ways.
No, great points right there. And again, I think it's important to understand your strengths, but also your opportunities. Particularly if you're a younger person, you want somebody who maybe has more experience that they can bring to the table because it's going to not just help investors get more comfortable, but it should help you and your team get more comfortable. If you think about any
Mhm.
team, even if you had the first five draft picks, you don't pick five rookies, right? You want to
Mhm.
get a team that's balanced with some younger players, some people with some experience so they can grow and gel together, right? You need somebody who's going to be a young hustler out there getting it and making all the phone calls and being willing to do all that extra work. But you also need the people who have that experience and that knowledge to understand, hey, here's what we're going to do, or here's why we're doing it, or here's, what I've seen before. Let's make sure we don't repeat these mistakes. And I think it's always
Mhm.
important to have that blend. And you just have to look at where you're at and the role you play on the team and make sure you're balancing that because it is a team sport. As you just said,
Mhm.
it's a team sport. So it's really important to understand how you are putting that
Mhm.
team together. Eddie, talk to us
Yeah.
about what's next, right? So you got the 130
Yeah.
units, you closed on the 48 unit deal, late last year. What's next for Symmonett Investments?
Yeah. So definitely we are looking to continue scaling in the Alabama market, but now this year, we've set an audacious goal of closing 400 units. And I did that big goal because I want to make myself really uncomfortable. Right now, like if you picture just like a hula hoop, I feel like I'm standing in, I was standing in the middle of a hula hoop, and the hula hoop represents my comfort zone, right? I just really felt the need to jump out of that comfort zone. So I said, okay, I'm gonna set up an audacious goal this year. I've done the 50 unit deals. I've done the sub 100 unit deals. Let's 10x this thing. Let's go where makes me feel uncomfortable. So that may end up leading us to hit that goal of 400 units, or come close, or even just going on that path. But for me, you know, is the pursuit of that. So me pursuing that audacious goal will allow me to, get uncomfortable and figure out like how to get a deal like that done. So yeah, our goal is to continue scaling in the market. I want to get to 1,000 units, and then I want to continue growing it out, as well as growing our property management company as well. So right now we have 2 employees. I want to have 40 employees. I want to have 100 employees. That's the part of business that excites me as well. So uniquely enough, I'm on the operations side, I am on the asset management side, but then also owning a management company too. That's a full-time job in itself, and I would like to continue growing that company alongside the portfolio.
No, I love it. Well, listen, if you are interested in learning more about Eddie and the business he's growing and maybe learning more about, how you can get involved, you can check him out anywhere on social media, particularly YouTube or Instagram. His handle is at Eddie Symmonett, and you can check him out there. Eddie, we're going to move on to a round of insights. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always go back to this 36 unit deal, right? So that deal, I'll go into it now. Basically, I bought this property, really good cost basis, but it had a huge need for construction. I didn't have any background in construction, so that ended up with me having to fire my first contractor. That ended up with me supposed to be completing a project in 12 months. It took a year and a half. It ended up taking about a year and a half. That ended up with us going over budget on certain items. But one thing I did do right, so it's a positive and a negative. So one thing I did do right was I bought the deal right, but definitely I didn't do the construction right. So, moving forward from there, I realized, okay, if you feel like you don't know much about something, it's a good idea to get someone on your team that knows that. You will have, like people always say, you either learn from your own mistakes or you learn from someone else's mistakes. So I'm big on that now. Like if I don't know anything, I'm saying, okay, who do I know? Who do I know that can come in and partner up with me? But ultimately, that deal ended up being a positive experience for me. We are in the process of selling it. We are going to make a profit. I am going to return investor capital. But that would be my biggest failure / success, I would say, that deal.
I love it, man. Great points there. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Digital mobile resource. I really like digital. Okay. They may have it on ebook. I really like the Multifamily Millions by David Lindell. That's really good. As far as resources, I like Enroute. So INROUTE. That's actually an app that you can download in the App Store or the Android store. I'm big on like finding deals by looking for properties and finding owners. That app, it allows you to track and route the best navigation to look at multiple properties. So for me, I've looked at over 500 individual apartment complexes in the Birmingham area. And if it wasn't for that app, I would just be crazy going around town, not, getting lost and everything like that. So that app actually allowed me to look at a large amount of inventory in the most efficient way. So anyone that's listening and that's looking to try to source their own deals, I highly recommend that app. It's called Enroute. Download it, and if you want to take a weekend and look at some properties, that's going to allow you to do it in the most efficient way.
Awesome, love that. Those who are driving for dollars, Enroute is an app you need to check out. All right, it may be Multifamily Millions, but if it's different, give me the book that you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I really like, I've been reading this book, I'm almost done with it, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a really good book. Highly recommend it because, this is a relationship business. This is a people business. Before technology and everything, this was a handshake business. Still is in, some scenarios. But, I definitely recommend that book. It teaches you how to communicate with people, how to get better results, how to talk to your team. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's huge. So I really recommend that book.
All right, give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I write down my goals like every day. I have like a little legal pad. Every day I'm writing down what my goals are, my daily tasks. I highly recommend doing that. I believe in affirmations. So me writing down that 400 units, every single day, the more I write it down, the easier it sounds, or like the less momentous it is. When I first thought about it, it was like really, hard to chew on. But after I show up every day and keep writing it down, I actually start thinking about ways of how to get to that point, right? So I highly recommend, picking up a habit to write down your goals every day. Write down a need to do things that you have to do to move your business forward. So even if it's one thing that you can write down every day, one singular thing, starting out with one thing that you could do to move your business forward, it's all about just getting that wheel going, getting that wheel turning, I would say.
Give me your number one insight for multifamily investing.
Number one insight for multifamily investing. Um, I think it would go along the lines of like what I was saying, understanding that it is a team sport. Because I know a lot of the listeners may be just beginning or small portfolios, or trying to get to that next level. I definitely think the sooner you can leverage team, no matter where you are, in it, the sooner you can leverage team, the better. I think you can get a lot done, a lot more done with a team, a strong team in place, I would say.
I love it. All right, Eddie, you are in Birmingham, Alabama. Not necessarily known for being a culinary gem, but I'm sure you found a couple. Give me your favorite place
Yeah.
to grab a bite to eat.
Okay, hey, that's a good one. So one of my partners always teases me about it because every time she's in town, I'm not taking her to the best spots. But I'm from the Caribbean. I like Jamaican food. It's a place here in Birmingham called Island Delight. It's really good. I really like those that back home Caribbean food because I'm thousands of miles away. So when I can get a good roti, when I can get when I can get a good jerk chicken, that brings me back. So
I love it. I love it. We'll appreciate that, man. If we get down there, we'll definitely make sure we put that on our list of places to check out. Eddie, listen, man, I love hearing your story, going from, coming from the Bahamas, to the United States on your tennis scholarship, figuring out
mhm.
real estate is what you really want to do, starting with wholesaling, getting into multifamily, first raising money from your family, then transitioning and building with LP investors. Now you've got 130 units across 5 properties with a goal to acquire 400 units. I think it's amazing watching your growth, and I appreciate the very practical tips you shared on how to actually grow, how to actually attract investors, and making sure you tell people what it is that you're doing and adding value to them. Again, if you want to connect with Eddie, you can check him out on social media. His handle is at Eddie Symmonett, Symmonett, 2 M's, 2 T's. Eddie Symmonett.
Mhm.
And look forward to staying in touch with you, Eddie, man. And I hope you have a great day. Take
Thank
care.
you, thank you, John. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.